Not just a loss, but to be quite honest, a complete humiliation. Tennessee drubs NC State in Charlotte by a score of 51-10.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Our post-game live sponsor is 5 Hour Energy. Go to 5hourenergy.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCFB in all caps to receive 20% off of your order. Kenton, you might need a 5 Hour Energy after what we witnessed last night in Charlotte. The Tennessee Volunteers run it up on the NC State Wolfpack by a score of 51-10. It was ugly, it was bad, it was gross, it was disgusting, and it was far worse than really any of us could have expected. Coming into the game, we both expressed our concerns about the disadvantages that NC State had coming into this game, places where we thought Tennessee could potentially exploit us. It got so much worse in a very short amount of time. Where would you like to start?
I mean, where couldn't you start in this game? Where couldn't you start? I was so thoroughly disappointed, and one of the biggest things that I was disappointed with is the idea that the coordinators are failing. I extremely strongly disagree with that standpoint for this reason. I'm not saying nothing needs to change. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying the coordinators called a hell of a ball game. And I know when you look at a score like this, you think you're insane to say something like that. You're insane. But hear me out. The reality of what we saw, how many times were players in position to make a play and simply did not?
I saw that you tweeted that last night. That was super frustrating. I think some of those bigger runs by Dylan Sampson, it felt like we were in position, just could not wrap up, and then boom, he's gone for 30 yards. Just a repeated cycle of that. Against Tennessee, you'll get killed with efforts like that.
The shovel passes that they were doing. I can understand. I'm blaming the coordinator if the running back's got a free path. He's walking down easy street to get to where he's going. Players are there. You are there. Now it's time to finish, buddy. Finish it with a tackle. And then offensively, I'm not going to say that their secondary looked like Western Carolina's, but did you think that our receivers struggled to get open?
Well, it looks a lot worse when McCall has maybe a second and a half to try and find a wide open receiver. That doesn't help.
But I say that to say this. You see a situation where guys are getting separation. You see a situation where KC was open, as KC is. He's like 7-Eleven. The kid's always open. You see that happening, and we can't get him the ball, even when the pocket's clean.
Yep.
And then the pick six, which everybody says, oh, that was the game. That was the game. That was it. I want to ask you a question, Grayson. People said that we were driving in, which we were. We were in the red zone and right outside, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're in the red zone. I believe at the 15 after a Justin Jolie phenomenal catch, by the way, on another pass that was off target.
Correct. Yeah, 15-yard line.
15 yard. Okay. So let's go and be really aggressive here. We're not going to say a field goal was coming out of that. We're going to say a touchdown was guaranteed. But instead, you get a touchdown the other way. That's a 14-point swing, right or wrong.
Correct.
Did we lose the game by 14?
No, a lot more than that.
Okay, let's double it. You know what? Momentum. We got to remember momentum, Grayson. We got to add in the momentum factor. Let's double it and give it to the next guy. 14 times 2 is what? 28. Did we lose by 28?
Carry the one. Nope, still more than 28.
So it seems to me that even if we assume that team goes and scores a touchdown, even if we assume we go in, get 6, I am still in shock and in awe of how one play is being blamed for a game that was that bad. Now, if you want to say that one player carries more of the brunt of this than anybody else, hey, I'm here. I'm here to have that conversation about how Grayson McCall has looked so far in this season, because I tweeted this earlier, and I stand by this. Don't bring no more one-year rentals to Raleigh. Don't bring a single one. I don't care what conference. I don't care what accolades. I don't care who he is. Do not bring another, because the more I look at it, the interception on the stick route is a timing thing. You know what builds timing and continuity? Time. And then we see the same thing on a RPO where you get what you want. The corner has to cover KC on the wheel. The safety sticking behind, I can't remember who the outside receiver was, but on a post. Jolie underneath is open. You can rally to him. But that puts you at what, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2?
Close, yeah.
And instead, we get wide and outside. And this time, the DBs are a little faster. This time, the linebackers are a little faster. Justin Jolie cannot do his best Sam linebacker impression and go get himself another tackle. It's Katie Diggs at the doorstep. Strike up old Rocky Top.
Yeah, the that pick by McCall, that wasn't the play that lost the game, and it certainly wasn't only on McCall. However, that play completely changed the dynamic of where that game was headed. Because you look at that situation, it was 10-3. NC State is in the red zone. They're on the 15-yard line. And at that point, I think there was, 5 or 6 minutes left until halftime. Worst case scenario, worst case was probably throwing a pick six. Second to worst case scenario is probably end up with a field goal. So then you're looking at 10-6. You kick the ball back to Tennessee right before half. Maybe they score, maybe they don't. But you could have like a 4-point ball game. Best case, obviously, you score on that drive. You could be looking at a tie game going into halftime. That would have been a smaller victory, because I thought up until that pick six, we played better than, quite frankly, I was expecting us to. I thought we made Nico look human at times. Now, again, he is a extremely talented quarterback, and he's only going to continue to get better. But I like some of the mixed up looks that we gave him. We pressured him. We surely did. We picked him off twice. Second one was a little too late. But, the point being is we got after him in a sense where we made his life difficult. And I was getting a little bit excited there, because I was like, okay, Tennessee expected at this point in the ball game to be already up by 21, 28 points. We have them at 10. Everyone would have taken that going into halftime. And then boom, the RPO pick six disaster. It was one of the worst pick sixes I've ever seen. And I don't want to dump on Grayson McCall here. It was truly that bad. It was that bad of a pick six. And just, you could feel all of the air right out of the stadium immediately. And something like that is so incredibly tough to recover from, because Tennessee, they're not going to beat themselves. I know Nico threw 2 picks. We worked hard to get those, but outside of that, they're not going to routinely beat themselves in the fashion that NC State did. And again, when you have a team as physical, as fast, as relentless as Tennessee is, when you make yourself vulnerable that early in the game, best of luck to you. And then the rest of the game sort of played out exactly how we expected it to from that point on. What could have been a tie game at halftime very quickly became a 14-point swing. And then the cherry on top, you got to kick it right back to them after halftime. They go down the field, they score again. Just a brutal sequence of events. And up until that point, again, I thought NC State was hanging in there. They were trading paint, so to speak, until suddenly they got that flat tire on the pick six. They had to return back to the garage because it was a disaster.
I think that one of the most interesting things about what we're seeing right now is, and I'm sorry, but I can't get away from this. I cannot get away from this. Grayson McCall in his in 2020 through 2022 had 8 interceptions. 8. He has 2 already at NC State.
And they are bad interceptions too.
2. And we're not looking at a situation again where if Grayson McCall, I say this to my family all the time, and this is something that I stand by and I believe. I never get mad at people for being who they are. Never. If I understand that you're a kleptomaniac, I'm gonna put away the valuable possessions when you come over. If I understand that you're a person who talks through movies, I know when I put a movie on, you're gonna get to doing your thing. The thing that upsets me is when you act out of character. Grayson McCall is a 6-year guy acting completely out of character. And don't get me wrong, some of this is absolutely timing, but I'm disheartened and disappointed because I'm not upset at you if you're throwing a 40-yarder down the sideline and it gets picked off because you just don't have the arm to get it there. Hey, I get that. What I can't get, interception on a stick route, interception on RPO. What I can't get is missing guys wide open.
Yeah.
That's what I can't get behind. Justin Jolie on the seam early in the game. But how big is that play? And the defense can't get off the hook either because while they started the game off well, when things started to go downhill, the wheels completely fell off.
Yeah. Kenton, I want to put a pin in this real quickly. I'm going to read a quick ad, and then I have a couple additional thoughts I want to expand into that point with McCall. Our first sponsor of our post-game live is 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy fixes tired fast, and trust me, you really might be needing to do that right now. Whether you have a long list to do for work or a list of do-it-yourself projects to tackle at home, take a 5 Hour Energy shot so you can check everything off your list. If you're like me, you always have a large list of projects for the home, and when you get supplies for the project, don't forget the most essential supply. That's a 5 Hour Energy shot. With zero sugar in a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5 and then hourenergy.com, and get some 5 Hour Energy product today, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB in all caps to receive 20% off of your order. The offer is valid from now until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders, so get on over to 5hourenergy.com today. Kenton, expanding into your point there about Grayson McCall, I think I speak for most Wolfpack fans right now. He's certainly just not what he was presented as in the offseason. It seems like we're not getting the guy that we thought would be leading this program. And I also want to touch on your point about the 1-year quarterback rental. I think that's a very real, I don't want to say epidemic, so to speak, but I think it's real. I think when you look at how the 1-year rentals are doing versus the guys that are in or transferring into a program and they're there for multiple seasons, there's a very stark contrast. We went through this last year with Armstrong. I think the prime example is probably what Joe Burrow did at LSU. Now, that's a completely different situation, but the point stands. His first year at LSU, he struggled. LSU struggles. They kind of went through the motions. And then that second year, they really rubber hit the road. They took off from that point on. So I don't know. I mean, based on what we've seen so far, I don't know. And obviously he's out of eligibility. Would a second year of McCall look much different? I don't quite know, because for me, it looks so much like a confidence thing. He doesn't really look sure of any of the throws that he's making. He just looks very, very antsy. And that pick six that he threw on the RPO route, it was like a jump throw. I know he had a guy in his face, but just doesn't look confident. Doesn't look like he's reading the field with, that same like coastal 3-time Sun Belt Player of the Year McCall that we used to see in him. And so that's a big time struggle. And going forward, when you take a 41-point loss on a national stage like that, confidence is something you have to consider moving forward. How is the team going to recover after being embarrassed on a stage like that? I think that's something to be considered as well. There's no time to feel sorry for yourself. You have Clemson coming up in 2 weeks, your second most important game. Well, the most important game moving forward now, because it's an ACC game. You feel sorry for yourself now, and you let one loss turn into 2 losses, turn into 3 losses. Your season will be over in September. So there has to be a very quick rebound factor. They got to get back in the lab and figure out some toughness, some intensity. I want to talk some more about the O-line now that I've talked about intensity. The O-line, probably my most concerned group on the team right now, outside of quarterback and the accuracy problems there.
100%.
Offensive line is getting bullied. They got bullied by Western. I don't even know what the word would be for what they looked like against Tennessee last night. We talked all week about James Pierce, and there's a bunch of chit chat about that. They had so much other depth on their defensive line. James Pierce really didn't even do anything. Now, he got in the backfield several times and influenced some plays, but I think he had one tackle. They didn't even need him.
Half a TFL.
Yeah, they didn't even need him. Didn't need him to be a star because of how freakish that defensive line is. And the offensive line, they had nothing for him. It was snap. McCall would take a couple steps, and you have a volunteer in the backdrop or the backfield. So that is something probably, again, that is my biggest concern moving forward. If the O-line is going to get pushed around all year, do we win 6 games? Do we win 7 games? I don't know. Because if you're going to get bullied week in and week out, sometimes on both sides of the ball, but really focusing on that O-line, you will struggle all season long, not just against the Tennessees, but against the Cals. I mean, Cal went on the road and beat another SEC team in Auburn. Are we good enough to match with Cal at the offensive line right now? It certainly doesn't feel like it. So there's a lot more questions than answers, mostly on the offensive side, but defense has their fair share of questions as well.
Congratulations to everybody currently listening to this podcast. Congratulations. If you can hear the sound of my voice, you rushed for more yards Saturday night than Jordan Waters.
-7. -7.
Congratulations. Again, at a certain point in time, and I'll say this. Anybody who knows me knows I'm not one for pushing panic buttons and making wholesale changes and all that right away. But I do want to call back to something you said there. Clemson is your most important game. I disagree. Your most important game is Louisiana Tech.
Well, yes.
And then your most important game after that is Clemson.
Yes.
And then your most important game after, so on and so forth, because this team is not good enough to look forward to other goals.
I agree.
You are good enough to look at the one game in front of you. And I say that not from the standpoint of the team, because the team, regardless of how good you are, you should always be looking one game in front of you. But I'm saying from a managing expectations as a fan standpoint, here's something that I want to talk about for a second about Tennessee is a really good team.
Yeah.
Really good team. What did Tennessee do to cause 3 different fumbled snaps or exchanges?
No, that was us.
What is done that forces a 6-year quarterback to decide there's a guy in my face, let me throw it over, instead of finding a way to either hit a different arm angle, which we see all the time, either find a different release point or throw it in the damn dirt?
Yeah. I think
because
the pressure on that play was real. Pressure is real, but the throw was so bad. I think that exceeds how much the pressure was there.
But we all know what happens if you try to hit that arm angle directly over the top. You have a couple different outcomes. Outcome number 1, it gets tipped and picked. Boom, right. You're going the other way. Outcome number 2, it gets picked straight up out the air because, again, when you throw it up, you cannot put power and force under that ball. So now it's a beach ball just floating in the air. And you see what happened there, which is what actually happened. And then your third situation is even if your guy catches it, if he was open, he's not anymore. This is college football. Those guys on the other side got scholarships. They got NIL money too. So you float it over the top and somebody gets killed. The best case scenario, sure, you luck into some star player making a fantastic play and working it out. But that's one of many outcomes, many of them being terrible.
Right.
And I'll say this. If you look at what I'm seeing from Grayson McCall right now, again, I'm not for panicking. I'm not for hitting wholesale changes and all that. If we continue to see this at Clemson, pull him. Because I'm the same thing I said about Brendan and CJ, I stand with now. I'm sorry, Brendan and MJ. I stand with now with CJ. I stand with that exact same thing. It's not about me loving MJ Morris or hating Brennan Armstrong. It wasn't about that then, and it's not about that now. I know y'all hate to hear that call back, but it is what it is. It's not about players. It's about I am this guy 24/7, 7 days a week. And one of my big beliefs is if my 6-year guy is going to make first-year mistakes, put in the first-year guy.
Right.
Because at least I trust, you know what? He'll learn from that first-year mistake because he's got 4 more years left. He's got 4 more years left. That's the reality of what I would look at there. So, looking for wholesale change. And by the way, for the folks saying that the defense was wore out and that Tennessee just went so fast that they couldn't keep up and all that good stuff, I want to let you all in on a fun little fact about time of possession in this game. Tennessee won it, but not by as much as you think. 31 minutes and 28 seconds to 28-32. So, I'm just, again, this is a situation where we have seen it, we have tried it, we've given it not only one shot, but we've given it 2 shots with the 1-year rentals. Get rid of that, X-Day, get it out. And then on top of that, we see playmakers making plays. We see guys make. I'm hearing from Tennessee fans, you only threw for 100-some-odd yards. Ooh, you only threw for 100-some-odd yards. Ooh. Were guys not open? And I'm being, Grayson, you tell me, am I delusional? Were guys covered everywhere? Was it a white jersey on top of every time you saw a red one or no? Am I crazy there?
No, I mean, they were getting open, but that just doesn't matter when the ball can't make it to them.
I see multiple times where guys are running open. I see multiple times Justin Jolie having to make an amazing catch when there's nobody within 5 yards of him.
Right.
I see multiple times on the 4th down to the flats. If you hit Raphael in stride on a 5-yard pass, and mind you, not 5 yards from the line of scrimmage, I mean from Grayson to where he was, maybe 5 to 7, I'll be generous and say 8 yards.
Right.
You hit him in stride on the 8-yard pass, he's all right. But because he had to come back, slow down, catch it back here, now he's got to juke one guy, and then after he jukes that guy, another guy's pursuing from the inside out, boom, you're off the field on 4th.
Right.
It's the little things like that to where, again, be who you are. I'm not mad at Grayson McCall for not being able to elude pass rushers like crazy. That's not who he is. Nobody advertised him as this super slippery master magician in the pocket. Nobody advertised him as that. So when our offensive line is getting whooped, and I'll get to them in just a second, when our offensive line is getting whooped in the way that they are, I'm not mad at them. Not knowing how to handle a snap, you're in year 6, brother. You're in year 6.
Yeah, and this
not hitting guys on very basic passes. What that's what I mean. And again, this is not to undermine Tennessee at all because they played a phenomenal game. They came at us with everything. You and I both agreed Nico is nightmare fuel for defensive coordinators. And he was.
Yep.
He was. But now let's go to the players on defense. How many times do you let the young man break contain? Tony Gibson assigns a spy to the quarterback. What do you want him to do? I put you in position to make a play. Damn it, go be a football player. Go be an athlete and make a play. And last but not least, the offensive line. I don't know what it is about this offensive line to start off seasons. I don't know what it is. I'm very genuinely shocked and in awe. I don't know what it is about this offensive line that, for whatever reason, you can't tell me, going back to last year, that ECU was one of the best 3, 4, even 5 defensive lines we played last year. Would you agree with that assessment, Grace?
Are you confusing them? ECU?
No. ECU last year, were they one of the best offensive? Oh, I'm sorry, 2 years ago. Were they one of the best 5 offensive lines we played that year?
No, not even close.
Did we bully them up front?
No, sure didn't.
And yet late in the season, we were pushing around better defensive lines.
Yeah. Yeah.
Last year, with teams we struggled to run against early, the way that we were rolling teams up at the end of the year, the way that you saw the offensive line moving bodies, what is it that just makes these guys go to sleep until game 5 or 6 or 7, and you're like, oh, I can do it now.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not mad at you losing to these guys. And I'm sorry to monologue so long here, Grayson, but this needs to be, I don't understand what it is that nobody was expecting you to whoop the wheels off of Tennessee up front.
Yeah.
Nobody was expecting you to even stalemate. Be competitive. All of these illegal men in the backfields on Belton. The guys are fast. They get off well. They're human. All of these moments where, like you said, it's snap 1 second and there's a guy in your quarterback's face. What are we doing? Be competitive. It was just very disappointing.
Yeah. Another quick ad read here, and then I want to respond to some of your comments there. I agree with them. Our second sponsor of our post-game live is Ibotta. It's barbecue and tailgate season, which means you got to stock up on all of your grilling favorites and earn cash back on every purchase when you use Ibotta. You won't have to choose between burgers or hot dogs because with Ibotta, you can get both. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta and using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. You can earn on hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies and even toys. You can make sure that you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. Head on over to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back using the code LOCKEDONCollege. That's Ibotta, IBOTTA, in the Google Play or App Store using code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College on Ibotta. So, Kenton, you were talking about the O-line. I think my biggest shock in how bad the O-line has looked so far, you're returning 4 starters that, in large part, I mean, you look at Belton, that's supposed to be an NFL draft guy. Tim McKay's back, a lot of experience there. This is a very experienced 4 guys that you're returning to your O-line. You bring in Zeke Correll, who was one of the top centers in the transfer portal. He joined us from Notre Dame. And these guys are getting bullied. And I mean bullied by 2 teams. Western, that was, I mean, yeah, not as shocking. Tennessee, the struggles with Tennessee, not exactly coming as a shock. That's one of the better defensive lines you're going to see all year. But that doesn't excuse how truly bad they looked. I mean, the getting knocked in the backfield immediately on every play, just snap after snap after snap. Talked about Jordan Waters rushing, 4 times for -7 yards. None of those rushes ever had a chance, by the way, because it is snap, look up, boom, lineman in your mouth. Smothers is the only guy that experienced a little bit of success on the ground. I think he deserves a lot more carries. I'll touch more on that on Monday's episode, but I'm shocked at how slow of a start the offensive line has gotten off to. You talk about looking back at last year, those last 5 games of the year when you go 5-0, the O-line got better and better and better and better. And you hope that an effort like that would then carry into this season, being that you return 4 of those 5 guys. Not at all the group that we expected to get. And then that bleeds into the play of Grayson McCall and the running backs as well, of course. So the offense has a lot, and I mean a lot, to figure out so early in the season. And again, you got to do it quick. You got LA Tech this week. You're not looking ahead because you can't at this point. The concept of a 12-game season almost goes out the window now. It is simply a 1-game season each week. Yeah. You have 1 game that should be all you focus on, and if you win that, then you move on to the next one. Because I do think they were looking ahead in the Western game. Certainly didn't help them out much because you got destroyed against Tennessee. So great. That was very discouraging to say the absolute least. So there is so many things to be figured out here. And I've seen a lot of people kind of draw parallels to the Duke loss from last year. You go over to Durham, you get completely embarrassed on the road. This kind of have a similar taste in our mouth to it, but this I think is a much larger scale. I mean, you got 50 burgered on a national, a national broadcast, ABC. You had the A squad in the play-by-play booth. Brutal. And again, we picked Tennessee to win this game. We cited all the disadvantages that NC State had coming into this game. I'm not upset about the loss because I could see why NC State would struggle to win this game. The fashion in which you lost is way, way more to deal with after this one. Because after that pick 6, you felt the wind come out of the sails, and then it was just utter domination for another 2.5 quarters. Yep. And if you're a team, we talked about this on Friday, if you're a team that wants to be taken seriously in the CFP picture, and then later on in the ACC championship picture, you can't get run out of the building like that. And again, it's Tennessee, sure. I think they're AP top 7 now. They're going to creep up even higher. I think they are that good. But if you want to compete on a level like that, you don't get 41 pieced in a relatively uncompetitive game for a whole half. So again, go ahead.
My thing is this: regardless of who your opponent is, right? The longest touchdowns against Western Carolina was the 51-yarder from Jordan Waters. And what else? What else did we have? What was our other long touchdowns in that game, or did we not have any?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. My thing is this: it doesn't matter who the opponent is. Imagine if you had the same operational problems on that 51-yard touchdown run that you had in this game. Imagine if you fumble a snap in that game. What then happens in that game? You see what I'm saying? It doesn't matter who the opponent is to me. Your opponent is just the next guy in the way. Yeah. It's just the next. This team came out and played in a way that, again, a center that is on his last year of eligibility, out the portal. A quarterback that's on his last year of eligibility, out the portal. And again, Tennessee is a good squad. We made them look like a God squad.
Yep.
Because when you have open guys, you have to hit them. We did not.
Yep.
And amongst other things, there are moments where, beyond having open guys and missing them, there are moments where you have to be honest, be open and honest about your personnel and say, hey, this is what it is. It has to be this way going forward. With all due respect, this is 2 games in a row now that Jordan Waters has not looked anywhere like our best back. In the first game, he looked like the third best. In this one, he again looked like the third best back.
Yep.
So against Louisiana Tech, and some people are going to say, oh, you're overreacting, and it's a difference between being the main guy and the backup guy. Hey, I'm fine with that. Let's see it. Let's try it out.
Yeah, in a very similar manner to the ramifications of that Duke loss last year. They kind of stripped this thing down to the studs. They relooked at all the offense. I think you got to have very similar conversations as you move from week 2 to week 3 because you have to find answers quickly. What I've seen, or what we've all seen out of these first 2 weeks, there are very stark issues in the offensive line, the quarterback play, the run game. If those don't get fixed immediately, you are in for a long season. It's not going to just stop here with Tennessee. You'll experience against LA Tech. LA Tech's not even a good football team. But what we've seen so far, they're probably going to give us a good game because we're not physical enough. We're not fast enough. We're not playing smart enough. We're just not a good football team at this current time. So you got to find answers quickly, or it's only going to get worse from here. We're gonna cut this one right here. We're gonna give you, of course, more of our thoughts on our typical Monday recap big picture episode. We really appreciate all of you joining us. I know it's an NFL Sunday. Still have over 500 people watching this, so greatly appreciate all the eyeballs in here. Very tough loss. We hate, of course, nobody likes to talk about a brutal loss like that one, but on the stage and the way it went down just makes it so sour to sit here and try and digest. But thank you all again for watching this live post-game feed. Be sure to hit that like button. Drop all of your comments in the comment box. Tennessee fans, I know you're going to be in there anyway. Hey, y'all won. You're the better team. You proved it. And best of luck to you the rest of the season. That's really all I got there. NC State, not a very good football team right now. They got a lot to figure out. So thank you all for joining us. Go ahead.
One last thing. I know we're exiting. Again, nothing I said is meant to take away anything from Tennessee. Phenomenal team. Dominated from start to finish, from wire to wire, basically. This game was a domination by them. Nothing to take away from them. You know what I mean? NC State played a horrible game in and of itself in its own right, but you have to give Tennessee credit. They were everything that they were advertised to be in a lot of ways. Give them their credit. Wolfpack fans, let the Tennessee fans talk. Ball fans are going to talk their talk. They showed up and hung 50 on you. What else can you do?
Yeah, they earned it. They're going to do what they're going to do. So moving forward, we're on to the next one. We will see you all right back here on Monday for our big picture episode. And until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.